Hello everyone and welcome to my Bachelor Nation 24 channel, I hope. Everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Joan Vassos admits feeling like a cheater. Moving on. The Golden Bachelorette star, Joan Vassos, discusses some of her challenges with dating and multiple men at that on reality TV. While her heart is still tied to her first husband, she is having a difficult time. Specifically, she admits she feels like a cheater after moving on to a new man. Joan Vassos has her work cut out for her. Although it is exciting for Joan Vassos to be the first ever Golden Bachelorette, she struggles with some feelings that surface during filming. Not only is it difficult to get out of her comfort zone and date 24 men at once, but she is also grieving. Undeniably, the lineup of fashionable men is easy on the eyes, but it comes with torture for Joan's soul. However, she isn't giving in on the Bachelor Nation process that easily. Even so, she is battling a deep-seated feeling of being a cheater to her first husband, John. Joan Vassos admits feeling like a cheater. Moving on. Undoubtedly, Joan Vassos cherishes the time she spent with her husband of 32 years, Joan Vassos. Without a doubt, she thought he was a stand-up guy. However, she lost him to pancreatic cancer in 2021 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. As such, she wasn't able to properly grieve his death. Joan told People, "My husband passed away during COVID, and I really didn't embrace the whole mourning thing." Admittedly, the 61-year-old did her best to pick herself up and keep moving. She says, "I was in charge of being strong. I just buckled down and ignored it." When Joan started meeting the men on the Golden Bachelorette, she was building new relationships and was quickly blindsided by ambushing feelings of cheating. She says, "I had to face it." Although she had sought out grief counseling, many groups were not available during the pandemic. After filming began, she says, "It was in my face that I was feeling really guilty, honestly, about having feelings for somebody else." Unmissably, as she opened her heart again, it was simultaneously breaking. Admittedly, she says, "I almost felt like I was cheating on John, which is crazy because he's passed away." John gave Joan a gift. Although the process of offering her heart to someone new has been difficult for Joan Vassos, she shares a beautiful gift from her late husband. Before passing, he told her, "I want you to find somebody. You are the greatest wife in the world. I don't want you to be alone. I want you to find somebody." Even with his permission, she still holds guilt about moving on. However, she explains that the Golden Bachelorette's team of psychiatrists helped her overcome some of her hesitations. She says, "They said, 'You don't have to let go of John.'" Further easing her mind, they add, "Picture it like this. You have two balloons, one in each hand, and John is in a balloon in this hand, and your potential person that you're going to fall in love with in this hand. You don't have to let go of him from this hand to pick this one up and have a life with this one." Admittedly, it was the picture she needed to allow herself to explore. And it was such a good lesson. Joan Vassos accepts the process of grief. Since Joan Vassos gave herself space to breathe and understand, it is a situation of more, not instead. She was able to talk with the suitor about her husband. Joan confesses, "You're trying to establish a relationship with somebody else. You don't want to talk about your deceased spouse, but keeping his memory alive didn't seem like I was being weird." Likewise, she describes, "I felt comfortable finally doing it. I talked about how funny he was and stuff like that. And I feel like the guys really appreciated that." But her positive light on her spouse gave room for her suitors to be vulnerable about their previous spouses as well. She adds, "It opened up the door to talk about people that were really important parts of your lives." Furthermore, now she better understands how grief works for her. She says, "You can't ignore it. It's going to be there. Talking about it and letting it out makes it more almost joyful." Freedom through acceptance. While it was scary for Joan Vassos to unlock her grief, it was therapeutic. She reflects, "I went from not being able to think about him or even having a picture in my house that I could see every day. I had pictures in the guest room and other parts of the house I don't see every day, to the point where now I'm feeling so much better about it. Now she feels free to share his memory. Then she adds, putting his name on a bench or planting a tree. None of these things are good enough. Further sharing, so I said, you know what I think he would like the most? Is that you don't forget him. Tell me stories. It doesn't hurt me anymore. In the golden glow of a California sunset, Joan Vassos sat down for a candid interview that revealed a vulnerable side fans of the Golden Bachelorette had rarely seen. Clad in a soft lavender sweater and clutching a steaming mug of herbal tea, Joan leaned back in her chair, her eyes misting over as she confessed the emotional storm she had been battling. Moving on after decades of marriage wasn't just a challenge. It felt, in her words, like an act of betrayal. I know it sounds ridiculous, Joan began, her voice trembling slightly. But there were moments when I felt like a cheater, like I was betraying the love I shared with my late husband, even though he's no longer here. Those vows, those promises, they weren't just words to me. They were my life. And now, here I am, exploring something new, and it's confusing. Beautiful, but confusing. This unexpected confession added a layer of humanity to the poised and elegant woman who had quickly become a fan favorite on The Golden Bachelorette. Viewers had watched her radiant warmth and wisdom, navigating the highs and lows of romantic connections with a grace that belied the inner turmoil she now described. The weight of memories. Joan's late husband, Michael, passed away 5 years ago after a prolonged illness. Their marriage was the stuff of fairy tales, or at least, that's how Joan had always described it. A lifetime of shared memories, traveling the world, raising 2 children, dancing in the kitchen to their favorite jazz records, had etched an indelible mark on her heart. For Joan, Michael wasn't just her partner, he was her home. When you've spent over 40 years loving one person, it's hard to imagine there's room for anyone else, Joan explained, her voice thick with emotion. It's not that I'm trying to replace him. No one could ever do that. But opening my heart again feels like stepping into uncharted territory, and sometimes it feels like I'm doing something wrong. She paused, taking a deep breath. There's this guilt, this voice in the back of my mind that whispers, what would Michael think? And I know he'd want me to be happy, but convincing myself of that. It's a whole different story. A journey of healing. Joan's decision to join the Golden Bachelorette wasn't made lightly. Encouraged by her children, who saw the spark dimming in their mother's eyes, she took the plunge as a leap of faith, a chance to rediscover joy, companionship, and maybe even love. But the journey wasn't without its hurdles. The first night, I almost didn't get out of the limo, Joan admitted with a laugh. I sat there, gripping the door handle, thinking, what on earth am I doing? I'm 63 years old, about to meet a man I've never seen before, on national television no less. It was terrifying. Still, Joan's courage paid off. Over the weeks, viewers saw her forge meaningful connections with several contestants, most notably Di Gansard and Mark Anderson. Each relationship brought its own lessons and challenges, pushing Joan to confront her fears and insecurities. With Guy, there was this immediate chemistry, Joan said, a small smile tugging at her lips. He's charming, adventurous, and has this zest for life that's contagious. But with Mark, it was different. He's thoughtful, steady, and has this incredible ability to make you feel seen. Both of them made me realize that love can look different the second time around, and that's okay. Wrestling with doubts. Despite these blossoming connections, Joan's journey was far from smooth. Moments of joy were often accompanied by waves of doubt and guilt. During one particularly emotional episode, Joan broke down during a one-on-one date, admitting that she sometimes felt she didn't deserve to move on. That night was a turning point for me, Joan reflected. I realized I had been carrying this invisible weight, this fear that loving someone new would somehow diminish the love I had for Michael. But that's not how love works. It's not a finite resource. It grows and evolves, and there's room for all of it. Support from fellow contestants. One of the most heartwarming aspects of Joan's journey was the support she received from her fellow contestants. Women like Nancy Hulkower and Faith Martin became her confidants, offering wisdom and encouragement when Joan needed it most. Nancy told me something that really stuck with me, Joan shared. She said, "You're not betraying Michael by moving on. You're honoring him by living fully. He loved you, Joan. He'd want you to be happy." Hearing that from someone who's been through her own heartbreak meant the world to me. A message for others. As Joan's time on The Golden Bachelorette nears its conclusion, she hopes her journey will inspire others who may be grappling with similar feelings of guilt or uncertainty.